Imagine a 13-year-old boy, alone in the world, orphaned from both father and mother, heir to one of the greatest fortunes in 18th century France. Now, imagine that same boy just 6 years later, at 19 years of age, commanding thousands of soldiers, on a continent he had never set foot on, fighting in a war that wasn't his own, alongside the man who would become the first president of the United States. Sounds like a Hollywood script, doesn't it? But this really happened. And the most incredible part? Without this young man, the United States of America might not exist as we know it today. This is the story of Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette, the child who became a general, the Frenchman who saved America, the aristocrat who embraced revolution. Stay with me until the end, because you're going to discover how a 19-year-old with no military experience whatsoever deceived a king, secretly crossed the Atlantic Ocean, and became a living legend on 2 continents. And I guarantee you'll never see history the same way again. Our story begins in 1757 in the Auvergne region, central France. Gilbert was born into a noble military family. His father was a decorated knight, a war hero. But tragedy came knocking early at the Lafayette family's door. When Gilbert was only 2 years old, his father died in combat during the 7 Years' War, fighting against the British. The child never really knew him. And fate wasn't finished with him yet. At 11 years old, Gilbert was sent to Paris to study at the prestigious Collège du Plessis. He was a shy, awkward boy who didn't fit well into French court life. But then, in rapid succession, came the final blow. At 12 years old, he lost his mother. Weeks later, his maternal grandfather also passed away. Gilbert du Motier, at 13 years old, was completely alone in the world. But here's the detail that would change everything. He inherited a colossal fortune, one of the largest in France. Properties, lands, titles. The orphan boy was a millionaire. As was customary among the French aristocracy, at 16 years old, Gilbert was married to Adrienne de Noailles, just 14 years old, daughter of one of the most powerful families in France. As a wedding gift, he was promoted to captain and given command of a company of dragoons. Imagine, a 16-year-old teenager, married, army captain, millionaire. The perfect life, right? Wrong. Because Gilbert Lafayette didn't want parties at court. He didn't just want to flaunt wealth. He wanted glory. He wanted honor. He wanted to avenge his father's death at the hands of the British. And in 1775, at a summer dinner with his regiment in Metz, he would hear the words that would change his life forever. If you're enjoying this incredible story and want to see more content like this, leave your like now. This helps the video reach more people who truly love history. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. At that fateful dinner in 1775, Lafayette met the Duke of Gloucester, younger brother of King George III of England. And the Duke was furious with his own brother. He spoke openly about the American colonies in revolt, about common men fighting for freedom against the British Empire, about the battles of Lexington and Concord, about a continental army being formed. Lafayette heard every word. And in that moment, still at the dinner table, his destiny was sealed. I'm going to America, he thought. I'm going to fight alongside them. I'm going to avenge my father, and I'm going to make history. But there was a huge problem. King Louis XVI of France had forbidden French officers from getting involved in the American conflict. France didn't want to provoke Great Britain, yet. So Lafayette did something no one expected from a spoiled 19-year-old aristocrat. He bought a ship with his own money. He christened it La Victoire, the Victory, and he planned his secret escape to America. When the king found out, he ordered Lafayette's arrest. The British ambassador demanded his ship be confiscated. Lafayette was arrested, but he was rich, young, and determined. He escaped from prison, evaded royal surveillance, and in April 1777 sailed to America in secret. 2 British warships were sent to capture him on the high seas. He eluded them. On June 13, 1777, after weeks of dangerous voyage across the Atlantic, Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette, landed near Charleston, South Carolina. He was 19 years old, he didn't speak English well, he had never commanded troops in real combat, and he was about to become one of the most important men in American history. Lafayette traveled to Philadelphia, the revolutionary capital, expecting to be received as a hero. But reality was different. The Continental Congress was fed up with arrogant Frenchmen offering themselves as generals. Many didn't speak English, had no experience, and only wanted money and fame. Lafayette was practically ignored. But then, he did something unexpected. He offered to serve without pay, for free. He just wanted to fight. And that changed everything. On July 31, 1777, Congress appointed him Major General of the Continental Army. He was 19 years old, with no combat experience. He was now a general. And a few days later, he would meet the man who would become like a father to him, George Washington. Historians describe that first meeting on August 5, 1777, as something almost magical. Washington, the experienced 45-year-old commander, weary, skeptical of the French, and Lafayette, the idealistic 19-year-old burning with passion for freedom. The two connected almost instantly, the biographers wrote. Washington took Lafayette to see the military encampment. Embarrassed by the precarious state of the troops and equipment, Washington apologized, and Lafayette, with genuine humility, responded with words Washington would never forget. "I'm here to learn, not to teach." In that moment, a friendship was born that would last forever. Washington, who never had children, found in Lafayette the son he always wanted. Lafayette, orphaned from childhood, found in Washington the father he had lost, and together they would change the world.
Lafayette didn't stay in the background for long. On September 11, 1777, just 1 month after meeting Washington, Lafayette participated in his first real battle, the Battle of Brandywine. And not as a captain, not as an observer, he went to the front lines. When the Americans began to retreat before the superior British attack, Lafayette tried to reorganize the troops. And then, he was shot in the leg. A 19-year-old bleeding on the battlefield, thousands of miles from home. But he didn't flee. Even wounded, Lafayette continued shouting orders, reorganizing the retreat, saving hundreds of lives by preventing a complete rout. Washington was impressed. He personally ensured Lafayette was treated by the army doctor. He visited him during his recovery. And after 2 months, Lafayette received his own command, an entire division. The French boy now commanded thousands of American soldiers. During the terrible winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge, Lafayette proved his worth. He shared the same hardships as his men: hunger, cold, disease. And when Congress tried to remove him from Washington with a suicidal mission to invade Canada, Lafayette saw through the political trap and refused it, remaining loyal to Washington. But his greatest contribution was still to come. In 1780, Lafayette returned to France and convinced King Louis XVI to send 6,000 French soldiers and warships to help the Americans. Without these reinforcements, the revolution would likely have failed. And in 1781, Lafayette commanded the forces that cornered British General Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered. The war was over. The United States had won. and Lafayette, at 24 years old, was hailed as the hero of two worlds. Did you know this incredible story? Had you heard of Lafayette before? Leave in the comments what impressed you most about this journey. And if you have a friend who loves history, share this video with them. Lafayette's story didn't end with the American Revolution. He returned to France and became a central figure in the French Revolution of 1789, defending liberty and human rights. He helped draft the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, directly inspired by the American Declaration of Independence that he had helped defend. In 1824, already elderly, Lafayette returned to the United States for one final visit. He was received like a king. Thousands of Americans gathered in the streets to see him. The young general who fought at their side was now a living legend. Lafayette died in 1834 at 76 years old in Paris, but his legacy lives on to this day. Cities, counties, universities, dozens of places in the United States bear his name. There's even a statue of him in front of the White House. Because Lafayette wasn't just a general, he was living proof that idealism, courage, and friendship can change empires. That an orphan child can become a hero of two nations, that age doesn't determine greatness, but rather the size of your heart. This was the extraordinary story of the Marquis de Lafayette, the child who became a general at 19 years old and forever changed the destiny of two empires. If you enjoyed this documentary and want to continue discovering incredible stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any episodes. Next week, we're going to tell another amazing story you never heard in school. Until then, stay curious, keep learning, and remember, history is full of unlikely heroes waiting to be discovered.